Hey everybody, Tony D with another screenwriting tip. This one is a comment request, kind of, from Nick Bravo, who asked a good question. Thank you, Nick. And he talks about, how do you sell your first script, or how do you sell scripts in this pandemic? That's a very excellent and good question. I answered it in the comments, but I'll elaborate more here. Excuse me. But first, smash like and subscribe. Thank you for smash liking and subscribing. Please check out my books, Wokistan, a novel, and The Pineys, available in Kindle Unlimited, ebook, and trade paperback. Audiobooks coming soon. Still working on it. It's very complicated. All right. So, one thing you got to understand as a writer, as a screenwriter, there are very few people who exclusively screenwrite. It's there's just not enough filmmakers, and most filmmakers, unfortunately, the screenwriting is not really respected as much of a craft in Hollywood and outside. That's why you get, if you look on the ads, say on Craigslist or freelance writing gigs, or even some of the forums like in Variety and IMDb Pro and things like that, you'll see people asking for scripts all the time, but they put a caveat in like, oh, we don't have any money. We're looking for a college student, maybe a first-time screenwriter. That is like code for, we don't want to spend any money on a screenplay. And there are a lot of them like that. There's just tons of them. They don't want to spend the money. And then they wonder why are there no good scripts in Hollywood? Yeah, it's because they don't want to spend the money on them. The problem with writing is most people who think they can speak the English language and can write their name clearly think that they can write a screenplay or a book or a comic book or whatever. They don't understand the craft. They just assume anybody can do it if you just take the time. And most of them won't even do that. Most of them won't even try it, because at least if they have tried it, they'll realize, oh God, this is a lot harder than I thought. And then maybe they'll gain a little respect, and then maybe they'll throw some money your way. But they understand that there are so many people who want to write, and they just, they're just willing to take a crap script from a first-time writer who doesn't really know what he's doing for nothing. And then just keep revising it and fixing it and revising it. Sometimes in the end, they end up spending more money, right? Because they have to bring in another writer. And, fixing a bad script's a lot harder than writing a good first script, let me tell you. I've been charged with that a couple of times. It's a nightmare to rewrite a bad writer's writing. It really is. Because first you have to read it, and that's awful. It's just torture to read if it's bad. Then you have to try to figure out, well, what did they really want to say in this? Then you have to figure out how much of this the producer really wants to keep, if any of it. And, what parts do they like? And then if they like parts that won't work, you have to explain, well, why you can't keep them in the script and you need to supplant them with something else. So it's a bit of a nightmare. I mean, it doesn't get any worse than that. So, I would never take those jobs unless, the money is really good. I would demand more money to rewrite a bad script than to write an original script. Because an original script, I'll just sit down and bang the thing out. It's fun. To fix, somebody's work, no, it's bad. But there are script doctoring gigs if you can get them, but they're more for writers who already have enough credits that producers feel like they can fix them. But if you're a first-time writer and you're trying to sell a screenplay in this environment, good luck. My advice to you would be to do what all first-time writers should do: is start small. You want to concentrate on, online ads, but there are plenty of online online ads for short screenplays. There's a lot of guys doing YouTube stuff, YouTube videos, and they need screenplays too. And that way they're short. You don't have to invest a tremendous amount of time. And in fact, and I've said this in previous videos, what you should do is sit down and knock out some 5-pagers, some 10-pagers, and just have like a little sampling of your work that you could also sell. And you could sell them for a lot cheaper, right? I mean, how long does it really take you to write a 5-page screenplay? Not long. Not long. It shouldn't take you long. You shouldn't agonize over it. It's basically just a really cool scene, right? Same thing even with a 10-pager. You just write them, have a bunch of them, have a bunch of different types of them, and you could use them as samples. And then you could sell one. Once in a while you sell one. If you see the right ad, you send it out. You even have to write synopsises for them too, which is so weird, right? Because it's like, you know, the script's only 5 pages, and then you have to write a 1-page synopsis to explain it. It's funny, but that is definitely the way to go. The chances of you selling a full-length screenplay to a production house that'll actually produce it, understand what that is. These production places, you know, when they gear up and they have money, like if you got on the ground floor of Netflix and were connected to one of these production houses that were just cranking out movies for Netflix because they were throwing money at everybody, you know, that was an opportunity. But you have to be tuned into that. That's not going to go on Craigslist, because the first thing that happens when a production company, you know, that's made like, say it's made like 1 or 2 low-budget movies, or maybe 1, and Netflix, somebody's got a connection at Netflix, they suddenly flush with cash, and they're like, can you do 5 movies in 2 years, or something like that? And then they go, oh my God, yes. or 5 movies in 5 years, let's say, something like that. The first thing they're going to do is there's going to be people who already work there who have screenplays who want to get them produced, right? They're actually making the wrong move because, you know, that production house still may not be big enough to really do their screenplays justice, but it's typically going to be based on whether or not the movie can be made for low budget, and whether or not, you know, the person is connected enough and they think, oh, okay, we'll use that script. You know, in terms of buying the script, what you want to hit is 2% of the total budget is about right. But, you know, a lot of places for first-time screenwriters, they don't even know what the budget's going to be. They're looking for a screenplay to budget. So, you know, don't give away the store. You know, be flexible, but don't give away the store. You know, one of the things you could do is just say, well, as soon as you budget this, I want 2% of the total budget. So if the movie can be shot for $100K, you get $2,000, and that's your screenwriting fee, and that would be fair for $100,000, right? $100,000 movie. If it was $1 million, it'd be $20,000. If it was $10 million, it would be $200,000. That's the range. You know, and then, you know, once you get in the 10 million range, then you get sort of union fees or whatever. And you want to get a piece of it if you can. You know, you want to get 2% of the net is usually about right. That's usually fair. 2% net. And that means really it's 2% of what the producer makes. So if the producer sells the damn thing, so you might get initially, say on a $100,000 film, you get $2,000 for writing a screenplay. Then the producer makes the movie for $100K. Then he turns around and he sells it for $300K. Well, now you get 2% of that. So you get $6,000. Now, typically what they do is they cook the books, and I don't mean to make that sound dishonest, because a lot of times it's not dishonest, but you know, the money is so tight with these things, they'll basically spend all the money. They'll basically spend all the money ahead of time, right? You know, the producer will waive his fee, and then later when they sell the movie, like, well, I waived my fee, so now I'm going to collect it. You know, we sold the movie for $300,000, but you know, we had to pay the investors back, and that cost $200,000 because they had to get their money back plus another, you know, double it. So we got $100,000 to play with. Well, I'm going to take my fee for all the work I did, and then I got to pay this guy and that guy, and you know, all the over budget. There'll be very little left over. So you might still get a piece. Depends on how close you are to the producer, whether or not he just calls you up and says, sorry, no more money. But, you know, having a good credit out there is valuable, because if you get enough of them and the movie does well, it can lead to bigger and better gigs. Because what'll happen is the guy with $1 million will contact you because you wrote a movie for $100,000 that did real well, and then he thinks, well, we'll move you up here. But getting back to the virus, I think nothing much has changed, except that New York and California are shut down, meaning that those two meccas of film aren't producing. And you might say, well, that's most of the films, right? Well, yes and no. A lot of productions are outside those two states. And believe me, these guys want to make money. And there is a huge opportunity here during the pandemic. And that opportunity is, if you're in a state that's open and you could start shooting and get a movie together, you can be ahead of the curve from New York and LA. So when they run out of movies, and they're running out of content, you're going to be first in line to say, we got a movie ready. You want to put it on Netflix? You want to put it on this and that? It's the law of supply and demand. The supply is dwindling. They are coming out with movies that are, I never heard of any of these movies. And they're giving them more of a, I wouldn't say a theatrical release. A lot of movies are going right direct to video. But they're creating this new subset of movies that are, they're video on demand, but they're kind of opening bigger than video on demand. Like that Mel Gibson movie I talked about, The Force of Nature. Like that's coming to Blu-ray, and they announced it big. And he's a big name, and you know, there was a little controversy and blah, blah, blah. But that's coming out, right? And a lot of people are going to see it because in some states they're still stuck at home. So you've got this captive audience, and they're desperate for content because they're burning through Netflix. They're burning through Hulu and all these things. People are, quite frankly, people are sick of staying home and they don't want to watch movies. But if they're stuck at home, they've got to watch something. So this is an opportunity, I think, to get movies made. And in fact, I got to stop making this video to send a screenplay out, because there's some guys who, they got money, can't tell you where, and we're sending a screenplay to them, and hopefully we're gonna get on the slate. So anyhow, I guess my advice in a nutshell, Nick Bravo, is just write. And if you can't write screenplays, write something else. Just keep getting your name out there. And but you know, for the first timers, I would say stick to the short films. You got a better chance. You know, build up your resume that way a little bit, and maybe get some on the IMDb. That's always handy. It looks nice, and you can always shoot people that link. And then, you know, just go from there. If people see your short films and they like them, they'll hire you for bigger films, hopefully. Anyhow, that's Screenwriting Tips. See ya.